Yesterday, one of the most baffling disappearances of all time occurred. The day began like any other, with most people simply just going to work or school, without having to face any real problems. I too was one of those people, although unfortunately for me, my day would not end in such a simple manner. After a relatively uneventful morning and afternoon, I took a trip to the local grocery store to buy some hamburger rolls. I wanted to make hamburgers for dinner that night, but I forgot to buy the rolls the last time I was at the store. After purchasing the hamburgers and driving home, I turned off the car, locked it up, and then went inside. Well, I didn't think much of it at the time. This was the last time a living person saw my car keys before they disappeared, and understanding this moment would no doubt prove to be very crucial in understanding where they went and when they disappeared. After going inside, I finished cooking the hamburgers. It was a long day at work and I was feeling pretty tired. So after finishing dinner, I decided to take it easy and watch some television. I turned on the television to some random channel and eventually fell asleep in front of the TV. The next morning was, once again, a fairly average morning. I woke up and started to get ready for the day. All was going well until I reached for my car keys and found that they were not where I left them the night before. At first, I thought maybe they just fell on the floor, but a quick search of the floor revealed that that was not the case. The keys were truly missing. I thought back to the previous day. I didn't clearly remember hanging up my keys, but what else would I have done with them? I had no idea where they could have gone. It was as if they just decided to get up and walk away. I realized that if I wanted to find my keys, I was going to need to retrace everywhere I went and everything I did the previous night. I must have had the keys when I got back from the grocery store, so the keys had to be somewhere in my house. I walked back to the car and looked around. Maybe I dropped the keys when I got out of the car and didn't realize it. Unfortunately, there were no keys to be found anywhere on the ground around the car. Next, I went inside and searched all around the key rack, which is where I would normally put the keys, but again, I found nothing. The search was not going well. The next thing I would have done after hanging up the keys would have been to go to the kitchen to put away the hamburger rolls that I had just bought. Now, this is where our story gets a little hazy. I looked around the kitchen the best I could, and I didn't find any car keys. But this doesn't mean that they weren't there. My kitchen was a mess, and there were so many things that I was doing at the time. The keys could have easily gotten misplaced in the kitchen, and I would have simply just missed them when I was searching. But, regardless, I didn't find anything, and I decided to continue the search elsewhere. The final place I checked was the living room. If you can recall, this was the last place I went on the night of the disappearance. So, the keys had to be here if they weren't in one of the other rooms. I looked around the couch and checked under the pillows, but once again, I didn't find any keys. So, where does this leave us? Well, although I didn't find any car keys, I was able to narrow the search down to just 3 rooms: the garage, the kitchen, and the living room. Since these were the only places I went after getting home, the keys had to be in one of these rooms. But where exactly were the keys? And how did they get there? Unfortunately, Since there was so little evidence left behind, it is unlikely we will ever truly know what happened to my keys. However, despite the lack of evidence, I have come up with several theories as to what exactly happened to the keys. Now, let's look into a few of these theories and discuss why they may or may not be accurate to what actually happened. For our first theory, we are going to assume that after locking up the car, I never once took the keys out of my pocket. Then, sometime while I was sleeping, they slid out of my pocket and fell into the depths of the couch cushions. Since when I searched the living room, I only lifted the pillows, I wouldn't have found the keys if they were inside the couch. Now, while this story seems a little far-fetched at first, after thinking about it for a while, it really isn't that ridiculous. Remember that I was tired when I got home, and it's not unlikely that I forgot to take the keys out of my pocket after coming inside. In addition, things fall and get stuck inside the couch all the time, so would it really be that bizarre for the keys to have fallen in there too? It certainly is a possibility, and stranger things have happened. Ultimately, while this is a decent theory, and it does offer a solid explanation for why I couldn't find the keys, it isn't my favorite theory. My main problem with the theory is that I probably wouldn't have gone to sleep with the keys in my pocket in the first place. I would have felt them, and there where I was lying down, and that would have made me get up and put them away. Although, with me being tired, it is certainly possible that I missed them, and I do like this theory more than some of the others. I still think it's unlikely, and I still think there are better theories out there. This next theory is very different from the others, and it is also one that I find very difficult to believe. Now, you may be wondering why I would include a theory if I don't think it has any chance of being what actually happened. The truth is that I believe it is important to get an alternate take on the disappearance, even if it is a far-fetched one. We are going to assume that after locking up the car, I did remember to take the keys inside and hang them up. But sometime during the night, someone broke in and stole the keys. Now, although this does technically explain what could have happened to the keys, it is very easy to see why this theory is hard to believe. First of all, if someone broke in, it's extremely unlikely that they would have done it silently without waking me up. And even if they did manage to break in silently, why would they have taken just the car keys, when they could have just as easily taken the car itself? It is quite a bizarre and unbelievable story, and this is the main reason the theory doesn't work. There just isn't enough evidence to support the idea that someone broke in and stole the keys. Now, this third theory is what I believe to be the most plausible of all the theories. Like the previous two theories, it explains why I couldn't find the car keys anywhere I looked, while at the same time being believable and free of glaring holes. The basic concept of this theory is that when I was retracing my steps, I didn't actually retrace all the steps. When I came home, I didn't hang up the car keys where I normally do, and instead placed them down somewhere else. Then, the next day, I simply forgot where I put them and forgot to search in that location. Because I was tired, and because setting down the keys is such an insignificant action, it is very likely that I would have forgotten when I did this. Since I forgot where I put the keys, it would have been impossible for me to find them unless I looked literally everywhere. Personally, I find this theory to be very plausible and realistic. The only real question it leaves behind is the same one we've been asking all along. Where did the keys end up? Although this theory explains how and why the keys went missing, it still doesn't explain where the keys went missing to. Despite this, I am still satisfied with this theory. The lack of evidence left behind would make it hard to find a theory that does conclusively state the answers to all our questions. So, We can't expect all the answers from even the best theories. The disappearance of my car keys is one of the most mysterious and bizarre disappearances to ever occur. It is unlikely we will ever truly know what happened to the keys simply due to the impossible circumstances under which they disappeared. Until I find the missing keys, we will never be able to come to a satisfying conclusion. Until then, I'm just glad that I have a spare.